29th of May, yes.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, this is Ian McDougall and an interview with Miss Francis? Deb?
Yeah, Debbie.
Debbie Francis. Okay. And it's the 29th of May.
Oh, don't wait.
Okay. This is the second tape of the backpack murder. Now, Debbie, would you just like to introduce yourself and explain how you came into contact with myself at Justice Action?
Right. We read the Sunday paper about the supposedly breakout of Ivan Milat and Mr. Savas, and for the last few years we've been trying to make contact with somebody who would listen to our part of the story.
You made contact with the press?
Made contact with the police and the press in the past, and nobody seemed to want to have anything whatsoever to do with what we found was relevant information. And so my husband said that he would try and contact whoever the writer or journalist was of this article. So he did that, and they gave us your number.
Right, and we talked about your relationship with a then serving policeman, correct?
Yep.
His name was?
Adam Brooks.
Right.
Yeah, and he was stationed at Bulli and Corrimal in Wollongong.
Right, okay.
Just to ask again,
all right.
why did you contact Macca?
Yeah. Okay. Why did you contact myself at Justice Action?
Well, my husband and I both thought that this was probably going to be our last chance, and we had actually the name of the journalist from the article in the newspaper, and we looked upon it as the last chance to do something about it, because for the last couple of years it has just kept popping its head up all the time, different things that have happened with no response from the police. And we just found it as our last chance to talk to somebody, whether it was vital information or it wasn't vital information. But the police have never led us to believe that if they'd said in the first place, no, he didn't have anything to do with Adam Brooks having anything to do with it, that would have been fine. But nobody's ever given us an answer or taken any sort of interest as in contact for what we did know.
And you also made contact with other persons with this information?
Yeah, we've made contact with numerous people through the press, and also the policing and task force there when they were investigating the backpacker murders.
Yeah. Do you recall the specific detectives you referred that information to?
I know one of the names was Detective Sergeant McIntyre, and another detective sergeant that later on he's sort of, there's two parts to the story. The first part was my relationship with Adam Brooks and the meeting of him and the relationship for a couple of years, and then his suicide, and then the investigation into the task force investigation into the backpacker murders. And this man's name has come up twice. He's come up as the investigation person and he led us to believe he was just like a secretary sort of a person passing on information of the police coming down to Yamba to interview me. And then he turns up as one of the head guys as task force air.
Was this prior to the arrest of Ivan Milat?
This was prior to the arrest of Ivan Milat.
So yes. Would it be during what year, the period?
Well, I met Adam in November of 1991, just after I'd moved to Yamba. It was about a couple of weeks after I'd moved to Yamba. I thought it was a chance meeting. I'd met, the local tavern had just opened up. They'd just built a tavern right on the water out there, and I'd been in town for a couple of weeks, and all the girls in the salon that I worked for, we used to go for drinks every Friday after work. And so the tavern opened up, so we decided we'd go and have drinks at the tavern this Friday. and there was two men out there. And one was Adam, and the other guy his name was Stobie. And they come up and started talking to us. And I thought that was the first time that we'd met each other, but it wasn't. Later on, I went to find out that Adam, in fact, they'd only just driven from Wollongong to Yamba the day before. That day, actually, they had arrived early hours of that morning, on the Friday morning. And Dale Stobie, his friend, apparently they were here for just the day. Dale wanted to buy a house for investment. And when I met up with Adam that night, wasn't until a couple of weeks later that he said to me, you know, it wasn't the first time I'd seen you at the tavern. And he said, and I said to him, where else did you see me? And he said, I seen you working today in the shopping complex, and I went over to ask the man in McKelly's who you were and if you would go out with me. And what Adam didn't realise, that the man in the shopping complex, because our hairdressing salon was on this side of the complex, there was like a walk through, and on the other side there's a shop called McKelly's, and that's men's clothes and ladies' clothes. But the man that Adam had asked who I was, he was the husband of the lady I worked for in the salon.
Right. Yeah.
So Peter, this man that he'd asked, said to Adam, she's just moved to Yamba, and I don't think, are you local? And Adam said, no, I'm not, I'm from Wollongong, I'm a policeman. Adam would always refer to himself as somebody. He couldn't just announce himself as, I'm Adam Brooks. It always had to be, Adam, I'm a policeman. Yeah. So Peter said, oh, well, if you want to meet her, we're all going out to the tavern tonight. I'll introduce you to her. And that's how we met. But I thought, and he led me to believe, that that was the first time we'd met.
How did you find Adam as a person during those early days?
Well, I only sort of got to know him that night because they were going back the next morning to Wollongong. But my first impression of him was, this guy's not all here. There's something with this guy, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And then he went on to say how he was a policeman in Wollongong, and he wanted to transfer to Yamba, even though he'd never lived in Yamba or been to Yamba. And he went on to say that his father was high up in the police force, and his stepmother was a traffic infringement officer. So that automatically made me feel more comfortable. I suppose I let my guard down a bit and thought, oh, well, this guy must be all right, he's a policeman.
Did he make you feel at ease?
He made me feel at ease, yeah. Very charming, very good looking.
Yeah. Very
good looking guy, young, surfy type looking. Yeah.
Did he, on the first occasion you met, did he talk about his past?
No, didn't talk about his past, but his stepmother, he kept talking about his stepmother, how much he hated her. And it all stemmed from when his father married his stepmother, and Adam had a little sister, Gay, and she was only a few years younger than him. But when apparently his father had married Fran, the stepmother, Fran didn't have Gay as a flower girl, and that's where his hatred stemmed from. So he hated her, and like Fran and Dick Brooks had been married for probably 10 years at this stage, but Adam still constantly talked about how Fran never had Gay as a flower girl, and that's why he hated her.
So from that first meeting, you then went to continue
from then he went back the next morning, and he rang me probably every day. His father and his stepmother were away at this time. I think they were over in Western Australia or somewhere. They were away. So he rang me every day, and about a week after I had met him, I come home. I lived with two other girls. I come home that afternoon, and one of the girls said to me, Adam's rung, someone's stolen his car, so he won't be able to call you tonight, but he'll ring you tomorrow. And I said, oh, okay. So the next day he rang me after work, and he was, how can I put it? He was in tears, but it wasn't just in tears. He was literally hysterical on the phone. He was really sobbing, and he was saying that some bastard had stolen his car, and it was only because he had his police shirts hanging up in the car that they'd stolen it. And he was still looking for it. He was out every night looking for his car.
What sort of car did Adam own?
It was one of the newer a Commodore, a white Commodore. It looked a bit like a police car.
Yeah.
Very similar to a police car, but he said he had his police shirts and uniforms hanging up in the back of the car. So that was his idea of why someone had stolen it. But he was just hysterical. But then, I don't know, something inside my head, I thought, he's trying to convince me too much. There's something wrong here. And a couple of months later, I actually asked him outright, and he admitted that he put the police shirts and his uniforms in the car, and it was around Christmas time. He'd bought presents for everybody in his family, and he put them in the boot of the car. And him and Dale Stobie, the guy that had come up to Yamba, who I'd met with Adam, they'd got the police radio, so they knew where all the police cars were. They took it out, and I don't know where they took it, to some forest somewhere, and they burnt it out. And he did it, and he said he put all the presents in the boot was because if the police or insurance company found the car, they would think he didn't do it. Because why would he destroy presents he'd bought for somebody?
This was
he did it. It was a new car, and why he did it later was he put it back onto me. He said because he wanted to buy a unit in Yamba, which he did buy then with the money, a unit in Yamba, and now his father owns it and has possession of it. And I told all this to the police after he'd died, that it was fraud. But they did nothing about it. Dick Brooks still owns the unit that he bought with the insurance money. And I told the police that, and they've done nothing about it.
The other man you referred to as
Dale Stobie.
Friend of...
Yeah.
Did you have any photos or any...
Yeah, I've got a photo of Dale Stobie, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We took the photo of Dale Stobie because when the police had arrested Ivan Milat, we just couldn't believe how much this man looked like Dale Stobie.
Since the police arrested Ivan Milat, have you ever heard from Dale Stobie again?
Yes, we have. Dale and his wife and kids come here once a year to Yamba on holidays, and that's how they knew about Yamba. So probably 2 times we've seen them since. Yeah, we've seen them, and we've had barbecues with them, and that's where we took the photos of him, because I was really suspicious of him.
And from that photo, what did you conclude?
Well, from the photo, I thought, why we took the photo was because I thought, well, the man Onions, who he said got into the car with Ivan Milat, and I thought to myself, well, if he got into the car with Ivan Milat and he was only there for a short time and he's sitting beside this man, he wouldn't actually be facing him front on. He'd only probably look at a side view of him. He wouldn't be sitting across a table and making out and thought, I've got to remember what this man looks like for any reason, because he got into the car with him, so he obviously had no fear of getting into. He was hitchhiking. So I thought, well, if he was only in there for a short time, I don't think that Mr. Onions could say that it wasn't Dale Stobie.
Now, you do have a photo.
Yeah, I have a photo.
And you'd agree with us, we've brought Miss Shalinda Hughes, Now, would you like to show Shalinda that photo?
Yeah.
And we haven't shown that photo. None of us here have seen that photo yet, although you have made...
I have got a couple of different angles of him, and I know he's not
Shalinda, if you'd like to take up a seat.
No, he's not his twin, but it's the features.
Yeah, it's features. I mean, I know it's different because...
Yeah. I'm going to say he's got no shirt on there, and he's got a pot gut and...
Have a look at that, turn that photo around.
I've got other ones here.
Who's this car?
That's his car.
Ah.
He has always owned 4-wheel drives. That's a new car that
And
he's
this is
got.
Mr. Stubby's, isn't it?
Mr. Stobie, Dale
Stobie.
Stobie. He's the man that went and burnt Adam's car.
It's a younger version of Ivan type of thing. I mean, it's like,
Could I have a look at that?
yeah, he's got them all
Righto.
heavy.
Got some other photos here. They're not very good.
Yeah, I can see what. Yeah.
Do you know how long Carl's owned that?
Actually, it looks a bit more like Richard, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can see a difference. I can see a difference because I know Ivan's got more sort of white hair and it's got very short hair, and it's like, how can I put it?
Yeah.
One of the things that I can't explain it, but is sort of older, mature, whereas this is sort of a younger version and looks a bit more like Richard. But could easily be mistaken, yeah. So I'll show you the pictures there.
It was just the common features, the moustache and the sideburns.
And that's
And
more,
I suppose on what day it was
it's more the
taken as-
description that Onions gave and whatnot that would have matched
right.
perfect to this, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know-
So I don't think he would have been able to really pick.
Yeah, because Ivan's totally,
Yeah.
it's got more classy look.
Now, you've referred to this man as Carl Stobie.
As Dale Stobie.
Carl Stobie, sorry. Now, do you know how long he's owned that 4-wheel drive vehicle for?
No, my husband does, but the time of the murders happened, it was not the same car.
Right.
He's always owned 4-wheel drives, we know that, but that was not the car at the time. He'd only previously bought that, a couple of years ago.
Right. So he's a 4-wheel drive enthusiast, is he?
And gun enthusiast. Yep.
Okay. Is Mr. Dale Stobie,
He's a coal miner. He has lived in Wollongong area for all his life, I think. But he's always been a coal miner. He met Adam. Their relationship started when he took Adam's older sister Janelle out when they were younger, and that's the relationship there, how they met.
Right. Okay. Do you know how long he's been married?
I'd say he's been married a fair while. His children would have to be getting around the 15. Maybe they've been married 20 years.
Right.
Get the feeling they'd been married quite a long time before.
Do you know which colliery he works at?
Which coal
Yeah,
mine?
coal mine.
No, I don't know which coal mine he works at.
But it's in the south.
It's in the
Coast
South Coast
Right.
area. Yeah. He always come across as a very nice person to me, Dale Stobie. He was always nothing but well-mannered, and I used to think to myself that I was reading a bit too much into things with him and Adam about this particular thing, and but I seen a change of character to him the last time I seen him. He was still the same as he was. He was still very nice to me, but they come to our house for a barbecue, and we had a huge block of land, and we had a campfire out the back of it. And the impression he always gave to me was he was very considerate. He would do nothing to upset anybody. He was very loving towards his wife and his children, a perfect father. But that night, after he'd had a few drinks, we had the campfire going, and I had spent the afternoon and I'd stuffed potatoes with garlic butter, and we'd put all these things into the fire. And all of a sudden he changed. He got up and he walked through the fire. And those potatoes just went everywhere. He did it about 3 times, trampled all over the potatoes and the food in the fire, and I couldn't believe it.
Had Mr. Stubby, had he ever had, was he in the army with Adam?
I don't think so. I really don't know too much about this man.
Did Adam ever talk much about Mr. Stubby?
Oh, all the time. And there for a while, just before Adam had died, they weren't really talking to each other. Like, the day we got engaged, the night we had an engagement party at the local restaurant. And Adam got up and he told everybody at the engagement party that his father was so sorry he couldn't make it to our engagement party, and all his friends were very sorry they couldn't make it. He had one friend here, Peter. He lived across the road from Adam. And he told everybody that how he was very sincere, they couldn't make it. His father, you know, he said was a very important man, and he was busy in his job and he couldn't make the time to come here. But I was going down to meet his...
Like, I tried to take photos. I took it for that reason, to get a similarity.
What's his name? This is
They're more
the
looks like,
male stobie.
yeah, they more looks like the original description of onions by...
Oh, we're getting a
that's the
flash.
original description. 'Cause it doesn't...
I took photos of him.
Oh, yeah, you're getting it
on
again.
canvas.
Yeah.
And I was taking photos of it, because I'm into that, and I was sort of getting shots of him as well.
Can't remove, mate. Can't remove.
The licence number would be great if you could just get that into, mate.
Yeah, I'll just...
I think it's on there.
The reg number, sorry.
just put the...
So,
Don't know. I'll just take a close...
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, so I can think of something for that. And things do lead in that.
Do you don't have a foreign money on that?
No, I can't.
I've got photos of the camper van and everything while he's packing them up.
Lady that owns Palazzi, and I said, I was wondering if you could help me. I've got the machine number and the size and everything of this jacket. It was given to me, but I want to insure it.
is it Italian name or...
Yes,
And
and they
you
don't
don't
make them
buy
in. They don't make them in Australia.
Right.
All right, you can read
But
that.
they sell them?
They import them, but they haven't sold them for about 10 years in Australia.
Okay.
And I said,
Broom in his boot.
always carried a broom around because, now this came out of his father's mouth, that Christmas I was down there, they couldn't find the broom. And his father said, go and look in Adam's boot. He's always got a broom in his boot.
Right.
A broom. He always
Because
carried a
if
broom.
Okay. 1, 2, I'll just check your focus.
Whoa, look at that.
All right.
Don't, Leon.
No, just keep moving.
Poor girl.
Don't.
Right.
Yes, we're right.
What?
He is beautiful, why we've got to be so beautiful.
Okay. Wait,
Okay. Adam Brooks committed suicide in February '93. Could you
Yeah.
explain the circumstances further?
Well, previous to that, the previous few, actually it was, we became engaged in October 1992. And that's the night of our engagement party was when I really, really seen a different side of Adam. Up until then, he'd just come periodically here. Every few weeks he'd come down for a few days. But the night of our engagement party, we had his friend staying with us. He lived across the road from Adam, and I had gone home earlier and went to bed. And I had a mattress on the floor. We didn't have a bed, just a mattress on the floor. And so I was laying there and I was awake and I was on my stomach. And I had my hands over my head like this, and I could hear Adam and Peter talking. And Adam said to Peter, go in and kick her. And Peter said, you've been drinking, don't be stupid, just go to bed. And Adam said, I dare you, I'll pay you. Go in and boot her. And Peter said, look, I'm going to bed, you're just being ridiculous. So Adam come in and he went to kick me. And with that, I just turned over on my back and I grabbed him by the shirt and I laid him down on the bed and I just punched into him and I said, don't you ever, ever touch me. And that was the first sign that, and it was quite mind-boggling. It was our engagement party night. He'd got up and been all sincere about how his father couldn't make it, and he was a busy man and he was an important man. He made sure he told people. And I found out later that he hadn't told anybody we were engaged. Nobody knew. His father didn't even know we were engaged, and he'd got up and made a big speech about him not being able to make it. And that was a bit suspicious. And also at that time, Dale Stobie had arrived in Yamba with his family for their annual holiday. They come to Yamba every year. So Adam knew that Dale was in town. Dale's wife was really upset. She didn't even know. Adam hadn't even told her we were engaged. And they'd arrived that day of our party. And they didn't. She said, we would have come to your party if you had told us you were engaged. So Adam had tried to keep it from everybody in Wollongong that he had another life here. That's what I made out of. Why he had done it. Why didn't he tell people? And then, so that was in the October that we'd become engaged, the 24th of October. And then progressively over the next few months, well, between the 4 months, October, November, December, January, February, over the next 4 or 5 months, things got really bad. One stage I was at my mother's house in Grafton, and he rang, and I told him, he'd rung previously in here, in Yamba, and he kept ringing me all the time. He was obsessive with ringing me up at work. Anything up to 12 times a day he'd ring me. And I was at my mother's place, and he'd rung me to say he was on his way to Yamba and he was supposed to be at work. And I said, I don't want you to come here. You're really you're frightening me, and you have done for a couple of months. And then he just switched and changed, and he said he was going to blow my head off when he got here.
Was he ever physically violent towards
No,
you?
never physically violent towards me at all. So he said he was going to blow my head off. So I didn't tell Mum and Dad because they thought Adam was just a wonderful person. My sister knew. I called her into the bedroom and I told her. And I said, I'm going back to Yamba now because I'm really frightened. So I drove back to Yamba and went around to a lady that works at the salon for me. Went around to her house and I said, Adam's threatened, he's going to blow my head off. And she said, he wouldn't be game. You stay at my house. Within a couple of hours he was at her house. He'd been around Yamba looking for me. He still had his police uniform on, and he'd driven all the way from Yamba, from Wollongong, but he'd changed again.
In his own car? Or?
He was in his own car, but he'd changed. He was so nice. And there was no, oh, I wouldn't do that to you. But before that, when I was at Mum's house and he threatened to blow my head off, I automatically rang his father. And I told his father what he'd said to me. And I said, is he really on his way here? And Dick said, well, he's supposed to be at work. And I said, well, he told me he's on his way here and he's going to blow my head off. And I said, can you go down to the police station and see if he's got his gun with him, see if it's in his, because they're supposed to put their guns away at the station, not take them off the station. And his father said, no, he wouldn't. I said, why wouldn't you? And he said, because if I go down there, they're going to wonder why I'm looking in his locker, and if his gun's not there, he'll be in trouble. I said, oh, thanks very much. You'd rather him come blow my head off than just taking a precautionary measure and checking.
From that experience then...
Pause a minute, mate. Rolling it, you know.
So you were saying Dad would
Well,
help, his way to help son?
well, I suppose blood's thicker than water, but yeah, that showed me that he was very loyal to his son, regardless if he thought he was going to create harm to somebody else, because I was really fearful because Adam hadn't showed that side to me much before about, he never told me he'd blow my head off, and that didn't seem, I thought Dick being a policeman himself would realise the dangers of all that, and he wasn't willing to step out of line at all to do anything about it. From the impression I got, his father was quite willing for him to come here and shoot me.
So do you think the father didn't see that as a life-threatening situation?
Obviously he didn't see it as a life-threatening situation.
Was there any events in the past that he talked about that you thought were violent, or
That he was violent to me?
or violent with others, or?
No.
Don't recall him mentioning any incidents where he...
Only that, which I don't know if it's truth or lie, that he said that when he was going to when he was in the academy at Duntroon. No, it wasn't Duntroon, it was the police academy. There was a girl in his whatever they call it, you know, their group, that intake that at that time, and how she attacked him with a knife, he said. And I said, well, why did she attack you with a knife? He had a scar on his shoulder. Whether it was the truth or not, I don't know why he got the scar. He said it was because he had taken this girl up to his room, his quarters or whatever, and the other guys from that class were in the cupboard and under the bed, and he had had sex with this girl in the room, and she'd found out that he had let everyone in the cupboards and under the bed, and she'd come back and attacked him with a knife. That's the story he told me. I don't know if there's any truth in it. But he thought that he was quite proud of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Did
he was
Adam
sick.
talk much about things and you didn't believe him?
Well, it's really weird because I was a much stronger person than that.
I'm trying to get low enough to get a decent shot of it, not too high, and it's slipping.
Okay.
I'll have to stay with that, mate. I'm sorry.
That's blue from there.
Now, you mentioned prior, you referred to when Adam was going to the police academy at Goulburn, I believe was it correct?
Yeah, Goulburn, yeah, police academy.
And he told you a story about...
Yeah, he told me, I said to him, what's that scar on your shoulder? And he said that he'd got it because he'd had sex with this girl in his room, dormitory or whatever they have there in his room, and he'd let some other guys in his room and he hid them in the cupboard and underneath the bed. And he said that the girl found out that he had these guys hidden in there, and she found out and she come back with a knife, and that's how he explained he got the scar. Whether it was true, I don't know, but Adam missed it. And the more I'd sort of take things lightly from Adam, like, oh yeah, the more he tried to convince me and go into detail to really convince me that what he was saying was the truth.
And how did you differentiate when he wasn't telling the truth as opposed to telling the truth?
It was when he started going into details. He used to always go into details when I used to say, oh, sure, Adam, and he'd go into this big, long story of detail.
And with that story, did he go into a lot of detail?
Oh yeah, he went into a lot of detail about having sex with this girl, and all the guys were watching from the cupboard, and the guy was under the bed, and yeah.
Right. So was he lying or not?
I don't know whether he was lying or not. I couldn't see. Maybe he was telling the truth. The only person that would know would be the girl and the other guys that were supposedly hiding in the cupboard.
Right.
Okay, mate, we'll have to change that battery. This battery. No, what
What happened after you committed?
No, before. The last time I seen him.
Yeah, last one.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. What happened the last time you saw him?
Well, the last time I seen him was in the middle of February, which was 1993, and he kept ringing me. He rang me about 8 times before 9:30 at work, and I just opened up the business, so it's a new business, and I couldn't afford him to harass me all the time on the phone. So there was a client there, and she said, I'm going to answer the phone the next time he rings, and which she did, and she said, Debbie doesn't want to speak to you. Anyway, I went over and got the phone, and I said, look, Adam, I can't handle this. Ring me after work, because I can't afford to keep leaving clients to answer the phone to you. And he said, I'm going to come up there and I'm going to blow your head off. And I said, yeah, right. I said, I've heard that one before. Anyway, that was at 9:30 in the morning. And this time I was a bit worried. It happened before, but this time I thought, well, this is it. So I thought to myself, it's going to take him 10 hours to drive to Yamba. So I thought, I can work till 4 o'clock, and I'm going to get in the car and I'm just going to go and book into a motel. And I had a nun there, I was doing her hair in the convents here in Yamba, and she said, come up and spend the night at the convent. He won't even know where you are. Because I was sick of running to friends. In the meantime, during the past few months, my friends were even starting to think I was going weird. They thought that I was being paranoid about Adam. So I thought, well, I'm not going to go to them anymore. I was sick of talking and complaining about him. So
You had discussed these threats with other
yeah, they were there, yeah. And so I thought, well, I have to 4 o'clock, I'm going to go home, get some things, I'll go up to the convent. Well, by 1 o'clock that afternoon, Adam walked into the shop. Yet he'd rung me at 9:30 from Wollongong, and I just couldn't believe it. He told me, and in his hand he had a bunch of 12 red roses and an envelope with $500 in it. And he said that he drove to Sydney, he told him some story to the airlines, he got on a plane, he flew to Coffs Harbour, he got a hire car from Coffs Harbour, and he arrived in Yamba. Yet people thought it was romantic. I had people saying, oh, he was so romantic, but it wasn't romantic, it was really frightening. And he stayed until the next day, and then he went home, and that was the last time I seen of him. I heard over the next few weeks, which was previous to his suicide, I heard from him. His father actually rang me on the phone and begged me, because I had just asked for just a couple of weeks break to get my thoughts together, which he agreed to. It wasn't a break off of engagement, just a break. His father rang me on the phone, wanted me to take him back. And I said, I can't. I said, just give me a few weeks because I can't get my... I said, do you realise what your son's doing to me? And his father said to me, if you take him back, I promise he won't hurt you. And little did I know, but his father told me later after he'd committed suicide that Adam was sitting in his office while his father was talking to me on that conversation, and Adam was sitting across the desk from him. Adam had got his father to ring me. And then the night of his suicide, I'd been out for the day and I got home, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I lived in a granny flat underneath someone's house, and I could hear banging on all the walls and the windows, and I thought it was Adam. I thought he was here, and I did think he was going to kill me. And I went out and I opened up the curtains, and there was 2 big policemen standing there, and I knew.
Were they plain clothes or?
No, they were in uniform. They were the local police. They had a minister with them, which his father had asked that they bring around when he told me. And all I could say was, he's dead, isn't he? And they said, yep. They said, sit down. I said, no, I don't want to sit down. I said, you've got no idea. I said, I'm relieved. I said, he's been threatening my life. I said, psychologically. I said, he hasn't physically harmed me, but I said, I'm just so pleased. I said, my parents are pensioners. They can't afford to bury me. I said, and I was nearly going to go and get life insurance in case something happened to me, because that's how frightened I was of this guy. And that was the last time that I really had anything to do with them. They asked, I want the minister to stay? I said, no, it's fine. The next day at work, I went to work for the morning, and then I said to Angela, I had lots of busybodies because it was over the news and the radio, and people coming and wanting to know, was it Adam, that nice young policeman that used to come up and see me? So I went to Grafton that afternoon, and I left one of my girls, Angela, in charge, and she took about 4 phone calls from a Detective McIntyre, and he got quite rude in the end and told her that if she wasn't going to put me on the phone, that he would get the local police onto me and they would bring me in, and so he could talk to me. So I went around that afternoon to Angela's house to get if there was any messages, and she said yes, there was a Sergeant McIntyre, and she was very upset that he was harassing her on the phone. And I thought, well, what makes them think this is the day after my fiance committed suicide? What makes them think I'd be at work? So I rang Detective McIntyre and I told him I didn't appreciate him speaking to my staff like that after everything that had gone on the last 24 hours. And he said, look, he said, I'm only just here to pass a message on. I'm here to pass a message on to you that on Thursday 2 detectives will be up to interview you to make sure I had the time to spend with them. And then this Detective McIntyre turned up again on Ivan Milat's case, and he was the person that stood outside Ivan Milat's house and said, this is Detective Sergeant Wayne Gordon, that he was in one of the heads of task force there, and he was the man that had supposedly been some secretary that rang me about Adam's suicide case. He was the same man.
So he was pretending to be a secretary.
Well, I don't know if he was pretending to be a secretary, but he put over to me that he was just some lappy that needed to pass a message on, that he wasn't an important person or anything like that, but he ended up turning up to be in one of the heads of Task Force Air. So it made me think that somewhere along the line there that the two cases were connected, because I felt that they knew right from the beginning, right from when Adam had committed suicide. He supposedly left no note.
Did you ever meet with Detective Gordon?
No, I never met with Detective Gordon, no.
But you had phone conversations?
Had phone conversations with him, and that was it.
Did he refer to Adam? And
yeah, he referred to Adam.
did he ask you for anything?
No, he never asked me for anything. Adam's father, well, that was in 1993, and the newspapers put out that it was lost love led to suicide, that I'd rang Adam at the police station 15 minutes before he committed suicide to call the relationship off. It was totally fabricated lies, because it said it was a police informant that told them, a police source, and but that was absolutely fabricated lies, because that never ever happened. I didn't have the phone on at home, and I didn't ring from a phone box because, frankly, I didn't make any contact with him. He would always contact me. And
if you made contact,
Leave it, mate. The battery problem.
in the November, I'm trying to look at what year.
the father made contact with you?
Yeah. Adam committed suicide in the 28th of February 1993. I didn't have much at all to do with Dick Brooks then, because of what was printed in the paper as well, you know, that it was my fault, and so he believed that it was my fault why his son committed suicide. And I didn't have to see him anyway, because he lived in Wollongong and I lived in Yamba, so I just tried to get on with my life. But it was about the third Tuesday in November of '93. Dick rang me one Monday morning, and he said he would be in Yamba the next day, on the Tuesday, and he wanted anything Adam had left at my house, and or he'd given me, he wanted it back. And I said okay, because I didn't really want those things anyway. So I thought it was a bit strange though, because I had been in contact with Adam's stepmother unbeknownst to Dick, and Adam's stepmother told me that Dick had got rid of everything of Adam's.
Do you know where else Adam had his possessions?
At his home.
And that was
in Corrimal, at his father's house. He lived with his stepmother and father. And
what items did he have of his here?
Oh, he had a sleeping bag, he had a camera, shirts, trousers, aftershave, he had a black leather jacket, and I gave everything back to his father except for the black leather jacket, and it wasn't intentional. I just had it in the cupboard. It was on a coat hanger, and it was part of my winter things, and because it was summertime I just hadn't been to that area of the cupboard, so I had honestly thought I'd given everything back. And it wasn't until when the Crime Stoppers was on TV on Four Corners, and Chris Masters was doing a segment on the backpacker murders when Task Force A had come together, and they were trying to find out who had done this, and they had identical photos of these people that had disappeared on the TV. And when I looked at it, and I looked at the German man, and he had the jacket on.
And have you got that jacket in your possession?
Yeah, and I just went to the cupboard and I thought, I don't believe this. I had my own opinions of Adam being involved somehow in the backpacker murders, and why I didn't give it back to him I don't know, but when I seen the jacket it was identical.
Would you like to show the the jacket?
Yeah.
Let's do that later.
Okay.
Just keep on with this stuff.
Okay.
Now with this, was there a sense of urgency in getting Adam's possessions back?
Yes, because Adam's father had been to see me on the third Tuesday of the November '93, and about 7 weeks later, the police were on my doorstep at my business, and they were here to interview me on Adam being a suspect. They told me Adam was a suspect in the backpacker murder case.
Was that a detective?
There was 2 detectives that come to see me. They didn't seem too interested. One was off, he went out to buy himself something to eat while the other one talked to me. They wanted to know dates Adam was here, and they wanted to know a bit about Adam. I did tell them that it didn't surprise me. He was a suspect in the backpack murder case because I had thought it previously myself.
Did you ever contact anyone with that information prior?
Well, no, because I really didn't have much information because it was only what my thoughts were and his behaviour. It wasn't until they had come to see me, like I said, 7 weeks after Adam's father had been to see me. So I didn't have anything to give these detectives because I'd given it all to his father. And I told them all about his unit, how he'd got the money for that, burning his car out. They only stayed probably half an hour. They did tell me that Adam, there were 7 people that had given information concerning Adam, why he was a suspect. They said that lots of people ring in and dob in and say, oh, I think my boyfriend might be it, or it might be my husband. He said they have lots of those. But he also said that it'd have to be pretty concrete evidence for them to investigate people. And for them to travel all the way from Sydney to Yamba, they said there was 7 people that had given information about Adam.
With the jacket, later on realising and...
That wasn't until after the detectives had been to see me.
Did you then try to recontact?
Then I contacted Crime Stoppers. I told them that Adam was a suspect, police had been to see me, and I had a jacket and it was identical to the one on Crime Stoppers. And she said, okay, I'll take your name and someone be in contact. Within a couple of months, nobody had been in contact, and I thought, well, it was a bit suspicious because Adam was a suspect. I've got in my possession something that might be belonging to one of these people. Why didn't they contact me? I thought they would be on the first plane here to come and pick it up. So I then contacted them again, and the lady said, made out that I was a nuisance. She said they've got hundreds of people ringing every day and I have to wait my turn.
The sort of items that Chief Inspector Brooks, the father of Adam, picked up, those items were...
there was a sleeping bag, there was a camera, shirts, trousers.
And you never seen them again?
I never seen them again, no.
Right.
No.
Now, the detectives later on weren't interested in the leather jacket, were they?
They weren't interested in anything. They actually got me, when they left, they said, where did Adam purchase his unit? And I said, actually, because I had the seller next door to a real estate agent. I said, actually, he purchased the unit from the people next door at the real estate. And I said, they'll be able to tell you everything. They wanted to know who his solicitor was, who, I think it was financed the loan, and the date he purchased the unit. And I said, well, you'll be able to find out next door. They'll be able to tell you everything. But they didn't go next door. Instead, they said to me, you find out for us and we'll ring you later in the week. They didn't even bother to go next door to the real estate agent. I had to do that.
Do you remember the names?
I don't remember the names of the guys. They were 2 young guys. They would have only been in their late 20s. Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't even show me a badge, so to this day I don't even know whether it was...
Are there any other items you've seen on TV?
Well, there has been. I had told the girls that work with me a lot previously to the photos coming out in the paper about the sword there was a photo in the paper of a sword. But I'd already described that sword before I even seen that picture to the girls at work, and I'd said how I'd seen it in Adam's room, and I'd asked him about it, and he said that it was his grandmother had given it to him when he passed out of the police academy, and it was a family heirloom, he told me. But it's very, very similar to the one in the paper.
Right. And what about weapons or any other items?
No, I didn't really see anything. No. All I know that underneath his house, his room was an absolute brothel. He had things everywhere. Underneath their house, they had lots of things. It was just all packed up underneath the house, so anything could have been there. I only went to that house and stayed for a fortnight one Christmas. That was the only time I ever went there. He had an obsession for brooms. There was always brooms in his boot. Don't know why he had them in his boot, but there was always brooms in the boot of his car. He had an obsession with being clean.
Would there have been any items in his of Adam's in his unit up here?
No, because that was rented out.
Right.
That was rented to just people that it was only a rental property, so there was absolutely nothing in the unit. It was bare.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we've pretty well covered that area.
Right.
Should we leap into the subject matter?
Smoker.
Yeah.
Right. Stubsy.
Yeah.
Start again.
Stobie.
Do you know what kind? Stobie. Sorry, Stubsy.
No.
Okay. Can I ask you a question there in regards to, did Adam smoke?
Yes, he did smoke.
Do you know what brand of cigarettes he smoked?
No, I don't.
No. He drank?
He drank.
Do you know what he had a preference for drinking?
I really don't know. I know he drank beer and rum. I'm positive he drank beer and rum.
The other man you referred to as Dale
Stobie.
Did he smoke?
He smoked. Yeah, I don't know what brand of cigarettes he smoked though, but I know he smoked.
Did he drink alcohol?
Yes, he needed to drink. Yeah.
Right. Do you know if he had a preference for any type of
No.
alcohol? No.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Was Adam a heavy smoker?
No. But it was really weird because I got the feeling that when I went down there at that Christmas, he wouldn't let me go anywhere. He wouldn't introduce me to any of his friends or anything. I just got the feeling at that time that he led a totally different life down there to we did here.
You mentioned previously that Adam was in the habit of carrying rope in the boot of his white Commodore.
Yeah, he told me that he carried rope, and it became knowledgeable because we're sitting in the salon one Friday night having drinks, and there was a few clients. One of our regular clients, she was sitting in there also, and it was the first time I'd ever heard of it because Adam started to tell everybody that he was a suspect in the Bulli rapist.
Do you remember the person that one of your regular clients?
Yeah, it was Sammy Watson. I later went on to find out that she became really concerned, although she never ever told me while Adam was alive, but she used to come and see me at work, usually of a morning. She never ever, I just thought she used to come to say hello, but she said later after Adam had died that she was really concerned for me because she said she seemed to see him change personality when he talked about being. It was like he was so proud of being a suspect for the Bulli rapist, and how she was concerned because he then offered to give her daughter a lift home and she wouldn't let her daughter get in the car with Adam. She said there was just something the way he was gloating, that how the police had got him out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning and dragged him down the police station in his pyjamas. They didn't let him get changed, and how they went through his car and he had rope in his car, and how he had DNA testing, and that was before he joined the police force. And then once he was in the police force and he went for his medical, he told me that the doctor who did his medical was also the doctor that did his DNA testing, and he asked the doctor how many people, because at the time he was under suspicion, the police said, oh, we've got hundreds of suspects and we're going through these same tests. And when he did get into the police force, after he was acquitted of any suspicion, he asked this particular doctor that had done the DNA testing, how many DNA testing did he do for the Bulli rapist charge? And the doctor said 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you, do you believe Adam Brooks is involved in the backpacker murders?
Yeah, I've always thought that.
Do you believe Dale Stubie
Yeah, Dale Stobie.
is involved in the backpacker murders?
I don't know. I didn't know Dale Stobie. I didn't know his idiosyncrasies or anything like that, like I knew Adam. What involves him, what I think, is because he was so slim, his features, his moustache, his hair, his sideburns, all that. I know that Mr. Onions recognised Ivan Milat as the person that picked him up. Whether that has any relevance whatsoever to do with the backpacker murders, I don't know. They might be two totally different cases. But Adam certainly didn't look like Ivan Milat, but Dale Stobie did, and he was his best friend. He'd also been to the forest, burned his car out with Adam.
What colour was Adam's hair?
Blonde.
Was it a light fair? Or?
He was a light fair, but Adam used to go from, when I first met him, he had long, it was really short at the neck, and it was really long piece all around. And the next time you'd see him, he'd have it shaved to the scalp. Then the next time you'd see him, it was in between. He always changed his hairstyle to the opposite. It was long, then it was shaved short, so he had no hair. So he looked like an absolute criminal. And then it was long again. So, you know, when it was short, it looked dark. When it was longer, it looked light.
Oh.
Yeah.
Could you just show us the jacket and also talk about what inquiries you've made into this jacket?
Okay. Okay, I come by this jacket. On one of Adam's visits up here, he gave it to me. I also had another jacket of his. It was a brown leather jacket, and which I liked, the brown leather jacket. And he brought with him one day, after I'd had the brown leather jacket for quite a while, he brought this one up, and he said he wanted to take the brown one back and he wanted to leave me the black one. And I told him I didn't want the black one, I didn't like it, and plus it was too long in the arms for me, as it was for him as well, because he was like a stocky sort of built person. And I always wondered why he would spend so much money on a jacket that was obviously a designer label jacket, which had cost a lot of money. I wonder why he would buy a jacket like that when it didn't fit him properly. And so I didn't want the jacket, but he was adamant he wanted me to have the black leather jacket and he wanted to take the brown one home with him. And I said I didn't want it. Anyway, it wasn't until after he left to go back to Wollongong a couple of days later that I realised he took the brown leather jacket anyway and left the black one. And that's how I come to get it. He was adamant he wanted to leave it in Yamba.
And where have you seen this jacket before?
I seen the jacket previously on Crime Stoppers, a very, very similar jacket to it on Crime Stoppers, with one of the German man who was wearing it, and he was a much taller person with longer arms. And that's when I started to get suspicious.
Do you think that jacket would have fitted the
yeah, I do.
The taller German person?
Because this jacket here on Adam, he was stocky. You know, he was a short. You know, his torso was short, shortish arms and legs. Whereas the German and the jacket sort of sat down around here on Adam, and the German man, he was taller. He had a bigger, longer torso, so the jacket sat here on him.
Right.
You know, there was a lot of difference. That was the only difference I seen to the picture and to the actual jacket itself, was the fact it sat in different places on Adam and on this other man, but he was a lot taller than Adam.
Right.
Right, okay.
Okay, guys, we may leave.
How tall was he?
I'll just zoom in on it.
Okay.
With him, you know, looking for the attention and all the other things, right? It's his way of showing his father or whoever he's trying to prove to that he is capable of, you know, being somebody, whether it's good or bad, right? But he's kept The maid final addressed to whoever he's trying to get through to, which is more so seems to be his father.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because his father's wife.
I can't see the,
I think was it the other
thing now.
I think it's
and the suicide note has declared him.
That's right.
Yes, that's what I think happened.
That was good just before.
Beg pardon?
His father.
Beautiful.
Right. What about Fran?
Look at that, Sil. Look at the jacket.
I can say 100% yes, Fran, you, but
Yes.
I don't think you'd ever.
Can you just focus
Like
on
this.
that tag down the
She
bottom?
hated him. The things he used to do to her. She was frightened of him, you know, she used to lock a bedroom door when she was in there. She used to lock all the rooms in the house.
Beautiful.
Fit chest,
And we're
100.
talking about a policeman here
Yeah, no.
that you're so frightened of.
Beautiful.
A grown woman. And can you see where she's coming from? He's dead now. She's got her life back. With her, he's the man she loves, which is Adam's father. She's got a life now. So she's just happy to just have the father now.
Yeah.
This bag is not unusual, you know, because it's come out.
Right.
That's pretty.
Okay.
Good looking at.
She knows how to score points, doesn't she?
Okay.
Okay.
An evil
Okay, now you described earlier Adam Brooks' hair colour as blonde.
Yeah.
Now, you're a professional hairdresser.
Yeah, to the normal, because the colours are so, there's so much variation in colours, but with Adam it was not blonde as you see someone with white hair as in blonde. To the person who wasn't a hairdresser looking at his colour hair on a medium length cut, person would say he was a medium to dark ash blonde. It was a dirty blonde. It wasn't a golden blonde. But I'd say that people would describe he had an ash blonde hair, a dark ash blonde hair. They probably even go to say that he had light brown hair, but it wasn't. It was, from a professional point of view, it was like a medium to dark ash blonde.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, in some of the possessions you had seen in the past,
There was a sleeping bag, camera. He did have a water bottle. And I can remember sitting at the dinner table and the water bottle was sitting on the table. And it was that sort of water bottle that you couldn't push. It was really, really hard, so it wasn't a squeezable bottle. And I remember thinking of the markings that were on the bottle and just saying that that was the bottle. The markings were across this way. And I thought, it wasn't a brand or anything, and I thought they were obviously made by someone. And I thought, I wonder how he got those marks into that bottle, because it was a hard plastic. You'd have to get something like a razor blade or something to make an indentation in that bottle. That was just a fleeting thought.
right.
That's all.
Now, we've seen this photo earlier of a Mr.
Dale Stobie.
Right. And now, could I just ask you to describe what appears to be on the front dashboard of that window?
Okay. In the centre, there's a crochet rug, and it looks like it's got yellow, blue, all different other colours in it. Yeah, it's definitely a crochet rug right in the centre of the dashboard.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything in addition to all this you'd like to add?
Well, there's probably lots of other things, but I suppose they're the basic things. Yeah.
And you've made contact with Mr. Andrew Burrow.
Yeah, I made contact with Andrew Bowe. It was June 1996. Actually, it was previous to June 1996. A couple of weeks before that. And actually 12 months before that. Well, not 12 months, it was Andrew Bowe first took over the case. We did contact him. We didn't have any replies, left messages on his answering machine. Then on the 14th of June 1996, after a few weeks previously, we'd been in contact with him. At 12:45, Andrew Bowe rang and inquired about the jacket that I've got in my possession, and I described the jacket to him, but we haven't heard anything since then from him.
Right. If there's anything you'd like to say to Ivan Milat, and you could say that, what would that be?
Hang in there. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good stuff. Thank you, Leon, and thank you, Debbie.
It's okay.
Fantastic.
Well, I'll leave this here, mate.
They're real hard.
Yeah,
Water bottle.
down there. Okay, that's our coordinator.
Serial killer.
I couldn't accept what they were saying.
Were you shocked?
Yeah. I just thought this was a horrible mistake.
In Milat's home, police found a photo of Miss Hughes. She was wearing a Benetton shirt that had belonged to one of the murder victims. She says she found it at the house.
May have led to better evidence being obtained.
Evidence against Milat.